I want to mention on this short video something very interesting that relates to an extent to our Parshat Vayeshev, and to Chinuch, how we should bring up our children. This is in particular an advice when there are a few children, when people have a number of children, and how they should establish the rules of interaction between those children. What kind of hierarchy there should be in the family. So we learn in this Parsha that Yaakov made a huge mistake by making Yosef overly important, making him, even though he was one of the youngest children, making him the number one child, and giving him a special coat of honor. And this caused ultimately, as our sages say, that our ancestors ended up in Egypt, and a lot of problems that happened because of separating one child from others. So one might think, therefore, that all the children should be treated exactly the same. However, this is not so obvious at all. The problem with Yaakov was that he treated the young child, making him a kind of ruler over everybody else, and showing only him that he loves him. But when, in fact, the children of the family are treated correctly, it could be that the correct way to treat them is, in fact, in a certain, with a kind of pyramid structure, is what Rabbi Chaim Walder calls it in his main book, Advice for Life, on pages 256, a little bit before that, in 257, he describes this very important lesson, that he thinks that it works much better actually when the structure is that the oldest children have the particular position in the family, and the younger the child, the lower is his position. Why does that structure work? Why would it ever work? Actually, a lot of times, the reason there is so much sibling rivalry, what's called, is because the older children don't feel secure. It's the weakness of the older children that want to show that their true position, that they really deserve. The older, usually stronger physically, is because of that very weakness, that they cannot be sure that their position is established. Therefore, they try to enforce it in a way on other siblings. So Rabbi Chaim Walder thinks that if the parents, in fact, will defend the older child as being of a greater position, then this will actually cause the opposite effect, that the child will be secure and therefore will be willing to treat his younger siblings with much more much more benevolence, since he knows that his position is for sure established. He is the older child and he has responsibility to the younger children. So it's if the parents do not preserve his honor, that will actually feel him compelled to prove himself, even if by doing so he will suffer or be punished. So he thinks that a lot of times the families have this type of bad relationship between children, and sibling rivalry is dafka because they do not establish the hierarchy from older to younger. The truth is, it's a Torah law according to Chazal that the younger children have to respect the older child. So he writes, try to find opportunities to show the respect that you're giving him, the privilege to be the first, to choose which bedroom he wants or where his bed should be positioned. This makes him feel that he has special status and reduces his need to prove his status by pushing his siblings aside. This approach certainly contradicts the philosophy of those who believe in complete equality between siblings, to the extent that they may even take out measuring cup to ensure that each receives the same amount of chocolate milk, or that no one, chas v'shalom, gets a single drop more than anyone else. So some consider this my approach unfair, he says, and express concern that his extra privileges will lead the oldest to assume that the younger siblings do not have any rights, and thus abuse them. Yet intellectual honesty as well as experience shows the opposite. The stronger the child feels, the less he'll attack his siblings. Try and see. I think this is a very important point, and this pyramid model, as I mentioned. He's a very experienced educator, and he advocates it in his other books as well. It's very important that people will establish a particular order, and then there is no fighting because each child knows his or her position, and at the same time they feel responsibility for the younger children, and they don't have to establish themselves by fighting them or by enforcing them, because they know that the parents already are on their side, and that the younger children will respect older children. If you like this video, please press like, and please subscribe to our channel.